Mom, what is this? Who is this Eleanor Vance? Why are you doing this to me? To us? My own son looked me in the eye and called me a liar. In front of a bank manager, in front of God and everybody. He said I couldn't be trusted with my own money. He said it was for my own good. But I'll tell you what's good. What's good is the $28,000 in crisp $100 bills hidden in a cookie tin under my flour canister. An emergency fund my sweet, forgetful husband, God rest his soul, started for us 30 years ago. A fund my son and daughter-in-law know nothing about. They took my checkbook. They took my dignity. So I started paying for everything in cash, and I kept every single receipt. Those little slips of paper, they became my evidence. Before we begin, drop a comment below with your country and what time it is right now where you're watching. Whether it's sunrise in Nairobi, midnight in Australia, afternoon in Canada, or evening in France. I want to know. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Don't just sit back. Tell me where in the world you are. Now, let's dive into the story. My name is Helen. I live at 1427 Maple Crest Drive, a white colonial with blue shutters in a quiet Ohio suburb. The hydrangeas are coming in nice this year. Or they were until my son, Brad, and his wife, Lisa, showed up last Tuesday. Not for a visit, but for what they called a family meeting. I'd baked banana bread. The smell filled my kitchen, warm and sweet. Brad didn't even take a slice. He placed his phone on my kitchen table, recording. Elisa held a folder. She's always been fond of folders. "Mom," Brad said. His voice had that tone, the one he uses when he's explaining why my Wi-Fi is slow. "We need to talk about some concerning patterns." They laid out printouts of my bank statements. Lisa's manicured finger tapped a charge. $79 at Michael's Crafts? Helen, you don't craft. I bought yarn. I'm learning how to knit for my granddaughter, Chloe. And this, another tap, a $120 donation to the American Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals? That's a recurring charge. I've given $10 a month to the ASPCA for 20 years, since our golden retriever, Buddy, passed. Brett sighed, a heavy, disappointed sound. "Mom, we think you're being scammed. Or your memory? We're just worried." My face burned. I felt small in my own kitchen. The kitchen where I fed this boy, wiped his tears, packed his lunches. He said it was time for safeguards. They drove me to the bank. The manager, a young man named Tyler who knew Brad from golf, was all sympathetic smiles. "It's just a precaution, Mrs. Henderson. A lot of seniors are targets." They had papers, a form, temporary financial oversight. My signature was needed. My hand wouldn't stop shaking. Brad gently took the pen from me. "It's okay, Mom. We'll handle everything." He signed for me. They took my checkbook. They left me with a debit card with a low daily limit. "For groceries and essentials," Lisa said, patting my hand. I sat alone in my silent house, the banana bread uneaten. The humiliation was a cold stone in my gut. But then I remembered the one thing Frank always said. "Helen, the bank is for show. The cookie tin is for go." I walked to the pantry. I moved the 5-pound bag of gold medal flour, and there it was, my grandmother's old Royal Dansk butter cookie tin. I opened it. The money was still there, all of it, smelling faintly of vanilla and security. That's when my plan began. I wouldn't fight them. Not yet. I would watch, and I would buy everything in cash. The next morning, I needed milk, a simple thing. I drove my old Buick to the Kroger on Main Street. I took two $20 bills from the tin. I felt like a spy. At the checkout, The young cashier, her name tag said Jasmine, rang up the milk, a loaf of bread, and some apples. "That'll be $14.67, she said. I handed her a 20. She gave me change. Then she did what she always does. She handed me a long, thin receipt. I usually ball it up and toss it in the little trash can by the exit. This time, I didn't. I folded it neatly and put it in my purse. It was proof. Proof I was here. Proof I bought simple, sensible things. Proof I was still capable. I drove to the pharmacy next. My prescription was ready. Under the new system, Brad had to approve any medication over my copay. The pharmacist, sweet Mr. Chen, looked embarrassed. "I'm sorry, Helen. Your son's approval didn't come through yet. He said to wait." It was my blood pressure medicine. I smiled, a tight, new smile. "That's all right, Henry. I'll pay cash." His eyes widened. The cost was $58.43. I counted out the bills. He gave me the little white bag and a receipt. I took that one, too. In my car, I sat with both receipts on the passenger seat. They were just thermal paper slips, but to me, they were declarations of independence. That night, Brad called. "Hi, Mom. Just checking in. Get your groceries, okay?" "Yes, dear," I said, my voice light. "Got some milk and bread." "Great! See? The card works just fine. No more crazy donations, right?" I looked at the receipts on my kitchen table. "No, Brad. No more crazy donations." I hung up and got a small decorative box from my dresser. It had held a necklace from Frank. I emptied the necklace. I placed the 2 receipts inside. This was the start of my new ledger. A week went by. My box was getting fuller. Receipts from the gas station, the hardware store for a new rake, the diner where I had pie with my friend Marge. I paid for Marge's slice, too, $5.95. I got that receipt. I started to notice things. Brad and Lisa's check-ins weren't random. They came every Tuesday and Friday, like clockwork. Lisa would always find a reason to go into my home office, the room with the filing cabinet. One Friday, she said she needed to use my printer. "Ours is out of ink," she chirped. I was in the kitchen washing the teacups. I dried my hands slowly and walked quietly down the hall. The door to the office was open a crack. I saw her. She wasn't near the printer. She was at the filing cabinet, the drawer open. She was flipping through the folders, my tax files, my insurance paperwork. She was looking for something. My heart hammered against my ribs. I stepped back before she saw me. What was she looking for? A will? A deed? Proof of something? That's when I realized this wasn't about fraud prevention. This was a search. They were looking for assets. But they were looking in the wrong place. They were looking at paper in filing cabinets. They weren't looking in a cookie tin in a pantry. They weren't looking at the quiet, humiliated old woman washing teacups. The next Tuesday, Brad came alone. He looked stressed. His suit was wrinkled. "Mom, we need to talk about the house." He spread his hands. "The roof is old. The property taxes are going up. This place is a lot for you to manage." He talked about equity release and downsizing to a lovely new, manageable senior community. "It has a cafeteria. You wouldn't have to cook." He made it sound like a vacation. I thought of my garden, my roses that Frank planted. I smiled my new smile. "It sounds wonderful, Brad. Let me think about it." He seemed relieved. Too relieved. After he left, I didn't feel scared anymore. I felt angry. a clean, sharp anger. I went to the pantry. I took $500 from the tin. Tomorrow, I had a new errand to run, and I would get a receipt for that, too. I couldn't do this all alone. I needed eyes. I needed someone who could look where I couldn't. I remembered an ad in the back of the local penny saver. Discreet inquiries. It sounded like something from an old movie. I called the number. A man answered. DeLuca. I met him at a Denny's off the interstate. He was a big man in a too-tight polo shirt, not like the detectives on TV, but his eyes were kind. I pushed an envelope across the sticky table. Inside was $500 in cash, all from the cookie tin. I need you to follow my son, I said. My voice didn't shake. Brad Henderson. I need to know what he's doing, where he's going, especially with his wife, Lisa. DeLuca didn't ask why. He just nodded, took the envelope, and gave me a simple receipt from a notepad that said, "Services rendered, $500. It was the most expensive piece of paper in my box, but it was the key. A week later, DeLuca called. He asked to meet at a different diner. He slid a manila folder to me. Inside were photos, time-stamped, printed on plain paper. Brad leaving his office building downtown. Brad meeting a woman who wasn't Lisa at a sleek, modern hotel bar. The woman was young, sharp-edged in a business suit. Brad was laughing. He hadn't laughed like that in my kitchen in years. There were more. Brad and the woman at a car dealership, looking at a shiny red BMW. Brad and a man in a hard hat, walking around a half-built McMansion in a new development. The last photo was the kicker. A document, photographed through a window. It was a real estate listing agreement. The property listed was my address, 1427 Maple Crest Drive. The proposed listing price was $150,000 below market value. The agent's name was the woman from the hotel bar. Her name was Stacy. Brad wasn't just planning to move me. He was planning to sell my life out from under me at a discount, probably to a friend of this Stacy, and he was doing it while having an affair. I paid DeLuca another $500 in cash. "Keep watching," I said. I got another receipt. The evidence was mounting, but I wasn't ready, not yet. Then they upped the game. Lisa started talking about my driving. "Helen, you drifted out of your lane last week." I hadn't. A neighbor said you seemed confused at the stop sign. There was no neighbor. It was a soft, constant drumbeat. The message was clear. Soon, you won't be safe to drive. Then my Buick wouldn't start. Brad came over, all concerned. He tinkered under the hood. Looks like the starter, Mom. A big job. I'll have it towed to my guy. It might take a while." He patted the car like it was a dying pet. "In the meantime, Lisa and I can drive you wherever you need." Trapped. They wanted me trapped in this house. I called AAA myself. I paid the tow truck driver $75 in cash. He gave me a receipt. I had the car taken to a different shop, Dave's Auto, a mile away. Dave was a friend of Frank's. He called me 2 hours later. "Helen," he said, his voice low, "this is strange. Your starter's fine, but your battery cables were disconnected. Not loose, Helen. Cleanly disconnected. Somebody unhooked them on purpose. Somebody. Somebody who had been in my garage. Somebody who had a key." The cold stone of humiliation in my gut turned to ice. This wasn't just about money or the house anymore. This was about making me helpless, making me seem incapable, so that when they finally made their move, no one would question it. The poor, confused old woman. It's for the best. I paid Dave in cash for the diagnostic. He gave me a receipt and a look of deep worry. "You okay, Helen?" "I will be, Dave," I said. I drove home, the car running perfectly. When Brad called, sounding falsely cheerful. Asking about the car, I said, "Oh, a nice young man from AAA fixed it right here in the driveway. Just a loose connection. Isn't that lucky?" The silence on his end was long and beautiful. The game had changed. They knew I wasn't as helpless as I looked, but they had no idea how much fight I really had, or how much cash I had in a cookie tin. I needed a lawyer, but not just any lawyer, a lawyer who wouldn't talk to Brad, who wouldn't be impressed by his smooth talk. I needed a shark. I thought of Eleanor Vance. Eleanor was a legend in our town. She was about my age, but where I gardened, she litigated. She'd sued the city council and won. She'd taken on the big development company and made them rebuild a wetland. Frank used to call her the Velvet Hammer. I looked her up. Her office was downtown. I walked in without an appointment. Her receptionist tried to stop me. I looked her in the eye. "Tell Eleanor that Helen Henderson is here and that my son disconnected my battery." The words hung in the plush, quiet air. A moment later, I was ushered into a big office with a view. Eleanor Vance had sharp blue eyes and a steely gray bob. She listened. She didn't take notes. She just listened as I told her everything. The intervention, the checkbook, the bank, the cookie tin, the receipts, the Lucas photos, the battery cables. When I finished, she leaned back. "Helen," she said, "you have been the subject of a predatory scheme, probably elder financial abuse, likely conspiracy to commit fraud, and a whole bouquet of other nasty things. The receipts are good. The photos are better. But we need to know the why now. Why the rush? Why the low listing price? What's the financial pressure on Brad?" She agreed to take my case. Her retainer was $3,000. I went home. I took $3,000 bills from the cookie tin. The stack was getting smaller, but it was worth it. I paid her in cash. She gave me a formal stamped receipt. I added it to my box. Eleanor's first move was quiet. She had a forensic accountant friend start digging. "Let's follow the money," she said. "Your son is desperate for a reason. We need to find it." While she did that, I kept living my life. I paid for my groceries in cash. I got my receipts. I smiled at my son. And I waited for the storm to break. Eleanor called me 10 days later. Her voice was crisp with satisfaction. "I found it," she said, "the pressure point." Brad, it turned out, wasn't just having an affair. He was in deep. The woman, Stacy, the real estate agent, was also his business partner in a speculative venture. They'd bought 2 lots in that new McMansion development. The construction was over budget, way over. The bank was calling the loan. Brad had personally guaranteed it. He was on the hook for nearly $400,000. If he didn't come up with a large payment in 45 days, he'd lose his investment, get sued by the bank, and probably lose his job at the financial planning firm where he worked. "He's drowning," Eleanor said, "and he sees your house, your equity as his life raft. A quick, cheap sale to a friend of Stacy's, probably Stacy herself with a shell company, would funnel cash right to him. He gets his bailout. You get evicted to Shady Acres." It all made sense now. The rush, the cruelty. It was never about me being senile. It was about him being desperate. Armed with this, Eleanor made her first official move. She sent a letter on her fierce legal letterhead to Brad, to Lisa, and to the bank manager, Tyler. It was titled, "Formal Notice to Cease and Desist All Fraudulent and Coercive Financial Control over Helen Henderson." It cited laws. It mentioned evidence of conspiracy and pending civil and criminal referrals. It demanded the immediate return of all financial control, including my checkbook, and a full accounting of any actions taken on my accounts. The letter landed like a bomb. Brad called me, his voice a mixture of fury and panic. "Mom, what is this? Who is this Eleanor Vance? Why are you doing this to me, to us?" I used my new, quiet voice. "You disconnected my battery, Brad." He sputtered, denying it, but the fear was there. I hung up. The battle lines were drawn. But I had the high ground. I had the receipts, and I had the velvet hammer. Brad and Lisa showed up at my house, unannounced. It was a Saturday. Lisa was crying, the perfect tears of a stage actress. "Helen, we're so hurt. How could you think such terrible things?" Brad tried the reasonable, wounded son approach. "Mom, this lawyer is poisoning you against us. She's after your money. We just want to protect you." They were good. They were so good. If I didn't have the photos, the receipts, the proof, I might have doubted myself. Eleanor had predicted this. "They'll try an emotional appeal," she'd said. "Record everything." So on the coffee table, next to the tissue box Lisa was using, my old smartphone was propped up, seemingly charging. It was recording a video. I let them talk. I let them plead. Brad finally broke. The mask slipped. His face hardened. "Fine. You want to be stubborn? That lawyer is expensive. How are you paying her, huh? You've got a cash stash somewhere, don't you? You've been hiding money from us." His eyes darted around my living room as if he could see through the walls to the pantry. Lisa stopped crying. Her eyes turned cold and calculating. They'd shown their hand. They knew about the cash, but not where it was. They were searching for it. The recording captured it all. The threat, the greed, the naked accusation. When they left, defiant and angry, I stopped the recording. I emailed it to Eleanor. "Perfect," she wrote back. "A clear display of intent and coercion." The next move was mine. Eleanor set a meeting, a family sit-down, at her office. She invited Brad, Lisa, and their lawyer. She also invited a neutral party, and representative from Adult Protective Services, and she invited me. "It's time to show your cards, Helen," she said. "Bring the box." The night before the meeting, I took all the receipts out of the necklace box. I arranged them in chronological order in a clear plastic folder. The grocery receipt from day one was on top. At the bottom was the last one, a cash payment to a locksmith to change all my exterior door locks. I slept well that night for the first time in months. Frank's emergency fund was about to go to war. Eleanor's conference room was cold and quiet. Brad and Lisa were there with a slick-looking lawyer. An APS woman named Gail sat with a notepad. I sat next to Eleanor. She didn't have any files in front of her, just my plastic folder of receipts. Brad started, his lawyer doing the talking. "Our clients have acted out of love and concern. Mrs. Henderson's cognitive decline and financial recklessness necessitated intervention." Eleanor let him talk. She just smiled. When he finished, she spoke softly. "Cognitive decline. Interesting." She slid the plastic folder across the table. "This is a record of every purchase Helen has made for the last 3 months, paid in cash. Groceries, medicine, hardware, diners, automotive repairs, legal retainer. All reasonable, all mundane. Where is the recklessness?" Brad stared at the folder. "Cash? What cash? Where did you get that kind of cash?" Eleanor ignored him. She clicked the button. A screen descended. She played the video from my living room. Brad's voice filled the room. "You've got a cash stash somewhere, don't you? You've been hiding money from us." Brad's face went white. Lisa looked at the table. Eleanor then showed stills from DeLuca's photos, Brad and Stacy at the hotel bar, Brad and Stacy at the car dealership, the real estate listing for my house. She presented the forensic accountant's report on Brad's failing development scheme and the $400,000 loan. She connected the dots slowly, methodically. The APS woman, Gail, took furious notes. Her face was grim. Brad's lawyer stopped making objections. He just looked at his clients with dawning horror. Eleanor finally turned to the bank manager, Tyler, who had been summoned. "And you, sir, facilitated this by accepting a signature from a third party under obvious coercion without a power of attorney or any capacity assessment. We will be filing a complaint with the Banking Commission." Tyler looked like he wanted to vanish. The room was silent. Eleanor looked at Brad. "This isn't fraud prevention, Brad. This is fraud. Period."
What happened next was a legal avalanche. With the evidence laid bare, Brad and Lisa's position collapsed. Adult Protective Services opened a case against them. They were investigated for financial elder abuse. The bank, terrified of liability, restored my accounts fully the next day and mailed me a new checkbook with an apology letter. Tyler was placed on leave. But the biggest hammer fell from Brad's own firm. When word of the scandal and the impending APS investigation reached his employers, a financial planning firm that traded on trust, they fired him immediately. His professional reputation was ash. The affair with Stacy blew up his marriage. Lisa moved out, filing for divorce. The house of cards he'd built came crashing down. And I wasn't done. Eleanor helped me file for a restraining order based on the coercion and the battery tampering. I didn't do it to be cruel. I did it for protection. The order meant he couldn't come to my house, he couldn't contact me. It gave me space to breathe. The quiet in my house was no longer the quiet of loneliness. It was the quiet of peace. I tended my garden. I baked banana bread and ate it all myself. I took knitting lessons, paid for in cash. I got a receipt. The cookie tin was much lighter now, but it had done its job. Frank's emergency fund had saved me, not from a flood or a fire, but from a predator in a suit who shared my DNA. One afternoon, I got a letter. It was from Brad, forwarded by Eleanor. It was full of blame at first, how I ruined him, how I chose a stranger over my own son. But at the end, the words got small and shaky. "I'm sorry, Mom. I was drowning. I saw your house as a number, not your home. I lost myself." I read it once. Then I folded it and put it in the bottom of my receipt box. It was a receipt, too. A receipt for a broken relationship. The most expensive one of all. The legal proceedings dragged on for months. The criminal charges for financial abuse were pending. The civil suit Eleanor filed on my behalf was aimed at recovering the legal fees I'd paid from my cookie tin and securing a formal, court-supervised financial management plan of my own choosing. The judge, an older woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense manner, reviewed all the evidence, the receipts, the photos, the testimony. In the end, she ruled completely in my favor. She granted a permanent order barring Brad from any financial decision-making on my behalf. She appointed a professional, independent fiduciary to be my payee, someone to help manage big bills if I ever needed it, accountable to the court, not to family. It was the safeguard I should have had from the beginning, one based on law, not on lies. After the ruling, I stood on the courthouse steps. The sun was warm. Eleanor stood beside me. "You did it, Helen," she said. "You saved yourself."
I didn't feel triumphant. I felt tired and sad and free. I took her to the diner, the one where I'd met DeLuca. I paid for our pie in cash, of course. I got the receipt. That night, at home, I took the receipt box and the now nearly empty cookie tin to the kitchen table. I spread the receipts out like a mosaic of my survival. The $14.67 for milk, the $500 for the private eye, the $3,000 for Eleanor. Every one was a step out of the darkness. I had proven my competence. I had proven my sanity, not with words, but with cold, hard cash and the paper trail it left behind. Frank was right. The bank is for show, the cookie tin is for go, but I'd add something new. The receipts are for truth. Life settled into a new rhythm, a better one. I changed my will with Eleanor's help. I left a small, fixed trust for my granddaughter, Chloe, to be managed by a bank until she's 25. The rest of my estate, including the house, was left to a coalition of local charities, the animal shelter, the library, the community garden, people who would appreciate it. Brad was not disinherited out of malice, but for protection. The will stated that any inheritance to him would be held in a protective trust, inaccessible to creditors, a final lesson in fiscal responsibility from beyond the grave. I joined a book club. I volunteer at the library. I still pay for most things in cash. Old habits die hard, and I still keep the receipts, not in a box of evidence anymore, but in a nice leather-bound journal, a record of a life lived freely. My relationship with Brad is complicated. The restraining order is lapsed. We talk sometimes on the phone. It's strained. He lives in a small apartment now. His divorce is final. He's working a different, lower-paying job. The $400,000 debt broke him. I don't gloat. I just feel a deep, enduring sorrow. The boy I raised is in there somewhere, buried under bad choices and desperation. I pray he finds his way out, but he will never have a key to my house again.
He will never have a hold on my finances. That bridge is burned, and I built a stronger one on my own side of the river. Sometimes, in the evenings, I sit on my porch and look at my roses, Frank's roses. They're blooming beautifully this year. I feel safe in my home. I feel in control. The cookie tin isn't under the flower anymore. I moved it. It's in a safe deposit box at a different bank, along with my receipt journal and a copy of my will. Some secrets you only have to tell once. It's a Tuesday morning. The hydrangeas are blue and full. I'm in my kitchen, making tea. The doorbell rings. It's a delivery man with a bouquet. Flowers. My heart does a little stutter, but they're not from Brad. The card reads, "To the bravest client I ever had, enjoy your peace. Eleanor." I smile. I put them in a vase on the table. Later, I have to run to the hardware store. A new garden hose. I take a $50 from my wallet. I keep a few hundred in there now, replenished from the bank, like a normal person. At the checkout, the total is $34.19. The kid hands me my change and a long, curling receipt. Out of habit, I reach for it. I start to fold it neatly, and then I stop. I look at it. I don't need this receipt. Not anymore. It's not evidence. It's just a record of a garden hose. I smile. A real smile. My old smile. I crumple it up into a little ball. I walk outside, past the trash can. I don't throw it away. I put the crumpled ball of paper in my pocket. I'll throw it out at home. Because I realize something. The evidence did its job. The war is over. I won. Now the receipts are just receipts. I don't need to archive my own life anymore. I can just live it. I get in my Buick, which starts every time. I drive home to my white Colonial with the blue shutters. My house, my rules, my life.
paid in full. So, that's my story. If you take anything from it, let it be this. Trust your gut, keep your own counsel, and maybe, just maybe, have a cookie tin, not necessarily for money, but for your own sense of self. A place inside you that no one else can control, no matter what they take from you. Because in the end, your independence, your dignity, is the most valuable currency there is. Guard it. Keep the receipts. And if you ever find yourself where I was, fight back. You might be stronger than you think. If this story resonated with you, please don't hesitate to like this video and subscribe to this channel so we can share more with each other. Please leave a comment and let me know where you're watching from. Thanks for listening to my story. Now I've got some roses to tend to.